Today, we have to talk about one of the biggest bombshells to hit the semiconductor industry in years. NVIDIA and Intel, historic rivals, have just announced a massive collaboration. And this is not a small deal. We're talking about joint product development and a $5 billion investment from NVIDIA directly into Intel stock. Of course, this news sent Intel stock soaring 25% today. But what does it all actually mean? Who wins? Who loses? And how does it impact key stocks like AMD, ARM, Qualcomm, and the foundry king, Taiwan Semiconductor? I'm going to break it all down, so stick around because you need to understand how this will impact you and your portfolio. Okay, let's get straight to the facts. This is directly from NVIDIA's newsroom. NVIDIA and Intel to develop AI infrastructure and personal computing products. So this partnership is a two-pronged attack, data centers as well as personal computers. So first, let's talk about AI infrastructure and data centers. Of course, that's the heart and soul of NVIDIA's business, and most of that is going to be GPUs. Now, this partnership is specific to custom x86 CPUs, not GPUs, that NVIDIA will integrate into its AI infrastructure platforms and offer to the market. So it's important to understand these are not off-the-shelf chips. So these are going to be tailor-made processors that are designed to seamlessly connect with NVIDIA GPUs. And this is going to use NVIDIA's NVLink technology. If you've watched the channel, you've heard Jensen Huang talk about this many times. The goal here is to create ultra-powerful, tightly integrated AI platforms. And CEO Jensen Huang, his words here, calls this a fusion of two world-class platforms. Together, we will expand our ecosystems and lay the foundation for the next era of computing. In addition to AI data center, also partnering for personal computing. And this is a big deal that is going to impact several stocks that we'll talk about later. Intel is going to build and offer to the market x86 system on chips or SoCs that integrate NVIDIA RTX GPU chiplets. There's no question that this is a direct assault to high performance integrated graphics. And what they're really doing is they're creating an entire new class of powerful PCs. We think of AI and gaming PCs. Now, to seal the deal, NVIDIA is also investing $5 billion in Intel's common stock, paying $23.28 a share. Jensen Huang seems like he has all of the cards. You've seen in the news all the different companies that NVIDIA is investing in, and these companies are just crushing it. So NVIDIA is growing like crazy. And on top of it, feels like anything they invest in turns to gold. So if you do the math on this, it's about a 4.9% stake in the total company. And of course, don't forget, the US government just invested $8.9 billion into Intel on top of this. Now, this $100 billion number here is important. It says, as the company builds upon its more than $100 billion expansion of resilient semiconductor supply chain. And the reality is, even though the government just invested almost $9 billion and NVIDIA invested $5 billion, there's been other investments as well. Intel still needs more money. To compete with Taiwan Semiconductor is very expensive, and they're going to need more cash. For Intel, this is a monumental, game-changing deal. For years, Intel has been seen and really has been a laggard in the AI space. Dan Ives from Wedbush, he calls this a game-changer moment for Intel. This is a game-changer deal for Intel as it now brings them front and center into the AI game. While not announcing a specific timeline when these parts go on sale, this announcement does impact the individual growth strategies of NVIDIA and Intel moving forward. And we're talking about $3 trillion to $4 trillion in AI infrastructure spend by the end of the decade. So there is a lot of money here to go around. But this move will definitely help, especially sentiment for investors, which is very important. And you're going to see the stock probably continue to go higher. It gives validation of their technology as well as their foundry, which has been a really important issue for investors. Getting this guaranteed high volume customer from NVIDIA, well, that's going to help them compete with a Taiwan Semiconductor and Samsung. It also aligns perfectly with what the government's trying to accomplish. We're trying to get semiconductor manufacturing on US soil. We've been talking about this since August of 2020. Semiconductors, the new oil. And this is showing you just how important semiconductors truly are. We're trying to get away from relying 100% on Taiwan Semiconductor. So a combination of Taiwan Semiconductor actually bringing fabs to Arizona on US soil, plus beefing up Intel's capabilities, well, it's just good for the United States. So what you're seeing here, guys, China just yesterday said, hey, we're going to ban tech companies in China from buying NVIDIA's AI chips. And today NVIDIA comes back and says, China, you want to betray us? We're going to go ahead and partner with Intel. Because of course, Beijing, China, stepping up efforts to boost semiconductor independence and compete with the United States. Semiconductors, the new oil, the global arms race is on. For NVIDIA, this is what I would call a strategic masterstroke. They're securing a dedicated US-based supply of high-performance x86 CPUs built custom for their AI systems. This is going to reduce supply chain vulnerabilities, and it gives them more control over their ecosystem. When you really think about NVIDIA's strategic edge, it has to do with its software capabilities. And if they can continue to deeply wind this software into their hardware, the GPUs with the Cuka software, and this is exactly what they're doing with these custom Intel chips. Believe it or not, that's making NVIDIA's moat even harder to penetrate. Where is NVIDIA stock headed from here? I think this is nothing but positive news. You guys know the drill. April got down to $86.62, ripped all the way up here to $185, pulled back. Now it's at $176. Nice pop today with this news. Your current R3 Fibonacci is $191.50. The previous is $202.70. This stock will go to $200, I believe, in 2025. And you're going to see $225 and $250 sometime between now and the next 12 months. Now, I've been seeing this question pop up everywhere, and I need to address it now. People are asking me, Eric, does this mean that Intel is going to be building Blackwell and Rubin chips on US soil? The answer is no. This deal is for CPUs. Blackwell and Rubin are GPUs, and there's really only one company in the world that can produce these at scale, and that's Taiwan Semiconductor. When you think of 4 nanometer and 3 nanometer and 2 nanometer, Taiwan Semiconductor really has a monopoly when you think of who can actually produce these chips, a foundry. So just to be clear, Intel is making CPUs, not GPUs. Taiwan Semiconductor is still the leader with GPUs, and it doesn't really impact them much at all. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for some other names like an AMD or a Qualcomm. Let's start with the company that's impacted most, and that's going to be AMD. Whether you like it or not, if you really understand what this is and what they're trying to accomplish, this is a direct attack on AMD's core markets. If you've been following this channel, you know that I own AMD because I consider it best of breed for CPUs for data center. This is definitely a direct attack at the data center CPUs, but also those PCs. And here's the thing, there's so much total addressable market. There are so many fish in the sea, so much money to be spent and made. AMD is still going to be a player. And the thought process here is that the growth is accelerating so much that by the time Intel gets ramped up, it really kind of equals itself out. Now, with that said, you understand that the stock market can be very fickle and sentiment matters. If analysts get a hold of this and start downgrading AMD, you can easily see the stock get absolutely hammered. So if you look at the last few years, ARM-based chips like Qualcomm, the new Snapdragon Elite chips, they've been making serious inroads into the PC market and really competing directly at that dominance from the x86 chips. This Intel-NVIDIA partnership is a powerful counter move to that. This will more than likely impact the revenues for ARM, and it could even impact some of the momentum that Qualcomm has with Snapdragon. Now, I own AMD stock, I own Qualcomm stock, I own Taiwan Semiconductor, I own NVIDIA stock. I don't plan on selling any of these stocks based on the news today, but as a prudent investor, this is something that we're gonna have to keep our pulse on. We're gonna have to keep a finger on the pulse, make sure we understand the developments that are happening here. Now, earlier we talked about Taiwan Semiconductor, and I kind of blew it off like there's no impact at all. There is some short-term impact. They're gonna lose business for those NVIDIA CPUs. But the golden goose here, guys, is NVIDIA's GPUs, and Taiwan Semiconductor has that in the bag. In the long run, beefing up Intel's capabilities really helps the entire global market. So what's happening now? This comes down to the AI arms race and geopolitics. When you see the US government investing almost $9 billion in a company, you know that it's gonna be for a strategic reason. This is a critical push to bring semiconductor manufacturing foundries back to US soil. We want to reduce our reliance to Asian countries such as Taiwan. To wrap it up, this is a massive win for Intel. It validates its foundry ambitions and it's going in the right direction. I still think Intel has a long ways to go. I'm not buying the stock, at least not quite yet, but I think they're doing all the right things. And if you're invested in Intel, you should be very happy. This is also a win for NVIDIA and its strategic supply chain. Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC, it's not losing its high-end GPU business. It's going to be just fine. This is a major threat, though, to AMD, really to its entire product stack. CPUs for both PCs, gaming PCs, as well as the AI data center. This also could impact ARM and other businesses like Qualcomm, fabless semiconductor companies that are using ARM's IP cores that compete against x86. So you tell me, what are your thoughts on this mega deal? Are you selling your AMD stock? Are you buying Intel stock for the first time? And who do you think comes out on top in the long run? I think it's clear to most people, NVIDIA, but drop some thoughts. Let's have a conversation. If you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.